You're listening to Back to the Roots podcast. And today you just have Mike and I. And we're going to go over some background of how we got to where we're at today with starting the podcast, some background of ourselves, and just kind of give the story of the podcast, because we've never done this before. We've just done interviews with other people, and we're putting ourselves on video, unfortunately for some people.
Most viewers.
Including ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, we just wanted to give the background of how we got here and the backstory. So Mike, you want to jump right into it?
Sure. I think this all started when we started working together, which was 7 years ago or so. We both loved listening to podcasts when we traveled for work. And, it's kind of over a couple of years, I know we talked about trying to get the voices of the farmers, the unique stories that we are in contact with on a daily basis. And so we actually, I don't know how much we actually planned, but all of a sudden we started doing some research, and I bought a microphone, and we were like, well, we should really do this. And then with the Plain Community Project within Organic Valley, where we both work, which was a project to bring a better understanding of the Plain community to the employees as well as the other members within Crop Cooperative Organic Valley. We were a part of that, and then we went to my dad, David Klein, our initial first episode, and just the history of the Amish moving to the United States from the 1500s up to present day. And that just kind of launched it. There was a lot of, we still really don't know what we're doing. But, early on, we just made recordings and put them out there, and it's I guess, really mind-blowing and surprising to me.
Yeah. But, like you said, it started with the Plain Project and trying to understand. We realized that where we work, like you said, we have day jobs working for Organic Valley, but certainly this is our own thing with a lot of support from Organic Valley for our time to do this. But we realized in the communities we work in, you're in Holmes County, Ohio. I'm in southern Michigan and work a lot with the northern Indiana Amish community in LaGrange County. And we realized that we had a lot of really cool stories that not many people know about or get to hear about on a daily basis. And I think one thing was, we both enjoyed podcasts, but I guess I'm going to put words in your mouth, but I grew up not on a farm. I grew up, somewhat in the city, but had exposure to a farm. But you grew up on a farm and Amish as well. And I think I stepped into this new world. Farming was somewhat new, but I had some experience. But working especially with the Amish community. And I just saw wow, this is a cool story. More people need to hear this. And I brought that to you, and I had done a lot of thinking about it and overanalyzing, and oh man, we ought to do something like this. And then I said something to you, and like you said, a week later, microphone,
let's do this. And I think your background being so different than mine really spurred us in the direction of doing it, because you made me take a step back and look at things that I grew up with that were just the norm. And you seeing it from a different perspective really made me aware of the uniqueness that our day-to-day job brings. And it's been what's great is not only the farmers that we know in the organic industry, but then you talk about the industry partners and everybody that's involved. The whole scheme of things there's just so many unique stories that I still think and I still believe that we are in a niche of people who generally don't have a voice. And if we can give a voice to them, I think it's wonderful.
Absolutely. I know we've been asked a number of times by people that we've gotten grants or sponsorships from, and we've talked about it ourselves of who's our audience, who's going to listen to this. And I guess my thought was, I don't really care who listens to it. It's for us. It's just a fun project that we get to do. We get to, we've interviewed friends of ours, people that we know well outside of the podcast. that I've learned stuff about them. We get to learn about industry partners that just have a lot of really cool stuff going on, and it helps me personally. It helps me in my day-to-day job, and I just hope that as far as our audience, I hope just people feel the excitement that we get by being able to talk to some of these people. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like sitting down with somebody who Bryan and I will be sitting there talking to him, and he says something that we just look at each other and it's like, wow, why didn't we ever hear of this before? And there are so many of those. There's way too many to even mention. But it seems like everybody you talk to has that unique little thing. And I think early on when we decided to do these all in person, not to do the Skype. Now, we do the Skype with the regional farmer updates and the market report. But the actual sitting down with for the interview, or I don't even like calling it an interview, but the conversation with a farmer or something, to have that in person, and if at all possible, on their farm or their ranch or their operation, whatever it may be, brings something that you can't get through Zoom or Skype. And I know 2020, everybody went to Zoom, but there's something about that personal interaction where you can read the cues on that person. It just really brings a uniqueness if you can see their operation and then sit down and talk about their operation. It's and the farmers that we know, when we sit down with them, we still learn so much. Like there's farmers I worked with for 9 years, yet when you sit down with them in this format, you learn so much.
Yep. Yeah, and we've gotten to see parts of the country that neither of us would ever get to, and be able to bring it back to help the people that we work with, help ourselves. And, I think there's certainly differences in farming that we've gotten to see, some different practices, some neat things that people do in the different landscapes, but there's also a commonality. And I think one of the the overarching common thing is organic. And that's what we've primarily focused on, is trying to tell that story of the principles behind organic and how these farmers live it day to day and really do believe in it. And it's not just a label that is on a package. It's something that the farmers that we work with and that we have on our podcast are doing out of they see it as a better thing for the world.
And they also see it as a path forward for the next generation.
Absolutely.
Especially on the small farm. When you look at ag in general right now, especially in the conventional dairy world, on the small farms in the community where I live, it's really, really tough, and it's really getting harder. And a lot of farmers are seeing as organics is the way forward for the next generation. But what I've found really interesting was over the years how people might have come to organics because that was the way to save the family farm. How 3 years down the road, how they totally believe in the system, the regenerative system, and working with nature instead of trying to find a problem and kill it.
Well, I was going to say exactly that. We've both watched it personally happen, that you have somebody that really sees the economic benefit of switching to organic, and they see the pay price on milk or the price of corn or beans or whatever it may be, that it's higher. And it certainly is. But the shift over a number of years of actually applying these practices and seeing the benefits on their own land and their farm, it converts them into, I don't want to say believers, but that's the best word I can think of. Is I've had the comment made to me a number of times that even if I lost my organic market tomorrow, I wouldn't change anything about the way I farm. And that just is really cool. And I think people hearing that story and us hearing that too is it makes me buy organic food. I know that's for sure, and makes me believe in what it is that the farmers are doing and that they have their whole heart in it.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference, and that's where we come in as being so lucky, because we see the care and the effort and the work and everything that goes into making these products, where a lot of consumers don't have that opportunity to see the amount of effort that goes into producing these. And we're so lucky that we get to see it. So for me to believe in it is really simple because I see the fruits of the labor. Mm-hmm. Whereas somebody who lives in a big city might never get the opportunity to see what we do. So if we can grab some of these nuggets of these farmers and pass it on as whether it be an educational piece or something that people just find interesting, I think that's what drives me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's really the whole idea of how we got this going. I mean, I said we do it partially, or we do it for ourselves. That's how we got started, being selfish about it. But certainly I can't help but think that and hope that some of the things that we talk about with farmers and some of the little tidbits of information get other people, whether it's in the big city or out in the middle of nowhere, they get excited about hearing farmers and get back to the roots. To be cliche about it.
That was really cliche, by the way. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think partially because of our job's uniqueness, it gives us an opportunity to do something that really not many people do. So, and the connections that we've made through the podcast, and I have to give my dad, David Klein, a lot of credit for giving us the opportunity to sit down with Wendell Berry, and sitting down with somebody like that. It's an honor and a privilege, and just his wisdom. And if you look at the changes that he's seen in agriculture over his lifetime, is incredible. And for us to have the opportunity to sit down with people like that just makes this so much more exciting for me.
Yeah, and we've had a number of other connections through your dad as well, and Wes Jackson and some of those other really fun episodes that we've gotten to do. But yeah,
it's when I look at like some of the highlights. I know early on we had John Kemp from Advancing Eco Agriculture on, and he is absolutely brilliant. And to have him on, there's just, I could go on and on through the guest list because it seems like everyone there's something for us to take home, and hopefully the listeners get the same opportunity to grab something out of those, because everybody has a unique story, and it's, I don't know, I find it fascinating.
Yeah, and we hope to continue to keep doing that, and that's another part of the reason we wanted to do this episode. We're going to kick this off right in 2021 as our first episode, and we, as we've talked about, we've had a lot of fun doing the episodes, and we don't plan on changing much, but you all probably realize that listen, hopefully on a weekly basis, but
yeah, hopefully.
We hope that we added a few things this year with the regional farmer updates and the market news with Mercaris. And we're going to continue to do that. And we hope to do a little bit more traveling this year and get to some parts of the country that we haven't been before, and do some interviews, some longer form conversations, I should say, with people out there. But yeah, anything to add on the?
Well, we're going to change up because Bryan does the market news and I do the regional farmer updates. So on the regional farmer updates, there's actually going to be 8 farmers every other month versus every month for each set of 4. Because that was asking a lot of the guys that were on it, and thank you guys so much for being on it. I really personally loved it because I took notes every time, and then I'd be excited for the next month. But this year we're going to do it a little bit different. We have 4 men, and then we have 4 women in ag every other month. So I'm really excited about that.
Yep, and the market news will continue as is with Ryan Corey from Mercaris. But yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the people that have helped us get to this point.
Absolutely.
Obviously, as we mentioned, we work for Organic Valley. They've been very generous with our time and allowing us to do this, as well as the FAFO, which is the Farmers Advocating for Organics. We've gotten some grant money to be able to do some travel and get out on farms and get this whole thing started. And then Albert Lee certainly has been there from almost the start and helped us get going. And then into 2021, we're going to have some new sponsors with Byron Seeds coming on board. And then, of course, we're going to continue on with Soil Biotics. So can't thank those people enough for seeing. So I still can't believe that we've gotten a little bit of money to do something as fun as we've gotten to do here.
Yeah, I still remember when I got that first email from Albert Lee, and they were seeing if there was any sponsorship opportunities. I'm like, what? Somebody's listening to this? But we can't thank them enough for what they did, and now with Byron Seeds coming in and Soil Biotics staying with us, I'm really excited for 2021. Hopefully, travel will be a little bit easier, and I'm really looking forward to getting into parts of the country that I've never been on from an agricultural standpoint. Whether it be the upper Midwest or the West Coast or East Coast or upstate New York, wherever it may be, might have been in that area before on personal travels, but never from this perspective. Yep. And that's one thing with the market the regional updates that I found so fascinating is when you look at John Banson last year from Oregon with the wildfires, then you go to Sam Dobson in North Carolina, which it's 100 degrees for 2.5 months of the summer. Just the different climates. The dairy farming practices are basically the same, but man, things are different with the weather. So hopefully we'll have people from across the nation again for that, and we're really hoping to get into some of those areas this year.
Yep. And not just dairy farmers, but also crop farmers. And also want to say to anybody listening, if you have suggestions of any really cool voice, especially within organic agriculture, we are absolutely open to hearing those suggestions, because we're always looking to find those connections that we don't have and let those people be heard, because there's a lot of stuff. We thought we had or we do have a small niche, and we've got some pretty cool connections, but there's a lot out there we're not seeing.
There's a ton out there, and not only suggestions on who to have on, but what can we do better?
Yep.
I mean, let's just be honest, Brian. We still don't know what we're doing. We just turn on the recorder and talk into the mic, and people listen, which is surprising. But thank you to everybody who's listens to us, follows us. Really appreciate it, because face it, without listeners, we have nothing.
Absolutely.
So just thank you. 2020 being a weird year, hopefully the weirdest year in our lifetime, but overall a good year.
Absolutely. And we hope to continue it in 2021, and I want to say thank you as well from both of us. Thank you so much for listening. Really
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a great 2021.